Continuing now, chapter 13, verse 12. The fool, slighting the scriptures and their instructions, and disregarding the counsels of great men, is exposed to difficulties and dangers from which he can have no release. There is no disease or poison, no trouble or affliction so painful to one in this earth as the ignorance one breeds in himself. Those whose intellects are purified a little will find this work to be of greater effect to dispel their ignorance than any other scripture. Everyone who is a friend to good sayings and good sense should diligently attend to this scripture with its beautiful examples, pleasing lessons, and lack of inconsistencies. Lack of dignity, inextricable difficulties, and baseness, and degeneracy are all the offspring of ignorance, just like thorns are the offshoots of the prickly gatekeeper plant. It is far better, O Rama, to rove about a begging with a pot in hand to the homes of vile chandalas than to lead a life deadened by ignorance. Rather dwell in dark, dismal cells within dry, dreary wells, in the hollows of trees, or remain like solitary blind worms, than labor under the miseries of ignorance. A man receiving the light leading to his liberation will never fall into the darkness of error or gloom of death. As long as the clear light of reason does not shine upon the mind like the sun, so long will the chilly frost of poverty continue to contract the lotus of humanity. To liberate one's self from the miseries of the world, one must know the true nature of the soul, both from his teacher and the evidence of the scriptures, and also from friends like ourselves. Try, O Ram, to imitate those who are liberated in this lifetime, who are free to roam about like the gods Hari, Hara, and others, and like the holy sages among Brahmins. Here on earth, our miseries are as endless as atoms, and our happiness is as small as a drop of water on a piece of straw. Therefore, do not fix your sight upon that little happiness which is beset with misery. Let an intelligent man diligently apply himself to attain that state of endless happiness, which is free from pain and constitutes his highest completion. They are reckoned the best of men and deserving of completion, whose minds are free from the fever of worldly cares and attached to the transcendental state. Base-minded mortals who are satisfied with their enjoyments, eating and drinking, and the pleasures of their worldly possessions, are reckoned as stark, blind frauds. Those attached to the company of impostors and wicked men, or addicted to the practice of evil deeds, who are enemies in the guise of friendship, or those given up to gluttony. All such foolish men of mistaken and stupid minds fall into the hardest of hardships, to the misery of miseries, to the horror of horrors, and to the hell of hells. Happiness and misery destroy and succeed each other by turns. They are as fleeting as flashes of lightning. Hence it is impossible to be happy forever. Those great souls who are indifferent and well judging like yourself are known as the most honorable of men, worthy of both temporal enjoyments and spiritual emancipation. By reliance upon right reasoning, joined with the habit of remaining dispassionate, men are able to overcome the dark and dangerous torrents of this world. No man of reason who well knows how the illusions of the world derange understanding should allow himself to sleep amid these illusions. Whoever remains neglectful in his worldliness is like a man negligently sleeping on a grassy bed when his house is on fire. A state reached without return, attained so there is no more cause for sorrow, undoubtedly is attainable only by divine knowledge. And that is a certain truth. Even if such a future state did not exist, there would be no harm to believe in it. But if such a state exists, belief in it will save you from the ocean of this world, samsara. Whenever a man is inclined to think on the means of his salvation, he is sure to be entitled to his liberation. The undecaying, unerring, and fearless state of tranquility is nowhere to be had in the three worlds without union with the Supreme. Having gained that best of gains, no one is liable to the pain from which no wealth, friend, or relative can save. Neither the actions of one's hands and feet in his offerings and pilgrimage to distant lands, nor the bodily pains of asceticism, nor his refuge in a holy place can serve his salvation. It is only by means of one's best exertions and the fixings of his mind to one object, and also by the subjection of his desires, that one may arrive at the ultimate state of bliss. So it is that by means of discrimination, reasoning, and ultimate ascertainment of truth, a man may avoid the snares of misery and attain his best state. One sitting at ease and meditating within himself attains the blissful state, free from sorrow and future birth. All holy men are known to be beyond the bounds of frail pleasures. They reckon their best serenity to be their ultimate bliss. They have given up all thoughts of humanity and heaven, which are as devoid of true joy as a mirage is void of water. Therefore, should one think of subduing his mind and resort to peace and contentment as the means, these, joined with an unbounded composure, produce true happiness. It is not by sitting or going up and down, or by wandering, or by prostrating before the altar. It is not to be acquired by Rakshasa demons, deities, or ignorant men. The ultimate joy is born of and obtainable from peace of mind. It is the fruit from the blossom of peace of the high tree of reason. Those engaged in worldliness without mixing in it are like the all-illumining sun and are known as the best of men. The mind is at peace and rest, clear and free from errors. And without any attempt or desire, neither forsakes nor wishes for the world. Hear me tell you about the orders of the guards: equanimity, inquiry, contentment, and good company at the gate of salvation. If you know these orders, you are allowed to enter. Thirsting after pleasure is a state of protracted disease, and this world is full of mirage. Only equanimity can cool this dryness like the moistening beams of the moon. It is peacefulness that leads to all good and is reckoned the best state of being. Quiet is joy. It is peace and prevents error. The man who lives content with his quiet and a calm clarity of his soul, with a mind filled with detachment, makes friends of his enemies. Those whose minds are adorned with the moonlight of peacefulness feel within a flux of beams of purity, rising in them like the whitish waves of the milky ocean. Those holy men who have lotus-like flower of peacefulness growing in the lotus-shaped receptacle of their hearts are said to have a secondary heart, like the two hearts of the god Hari, holding Brahma in one of them. They whose untainted faces shine like the moon with the luster of peacefulness are to be honored as the luminaries of their families. Others, seeing the charming beauty of their appearance, honor them as ravishers of the senses. Whatever is beautiful in the three worlds, and whatever may be imperial, prosperity, and grandeur, nothing in them can afford a happiness equal to that of peacefulness. Whatever the misery, anxiety, or intolerable difficulty, they are all lost in a tranquil mind like darkness in the sun. The mind of no living being is so delighted with moonbeams as that of the peaceful man with his heartfelt joy. The virtuous man who is calm and quiet and friendly to all living beings feels the benign influence of highest truths appearing of themselves in his mind. Just like all children, whether good or bad, have a strict faith in their mother, so all beings here rely upon a man of even disposition. A refreshing drink of ambrosia or the kind embrace of prosperity cannot give such gratification to the soul as one's inner satisfaction of the mind. Whether afflicted by disease or disaster, or dragged by the rope of greed, bear yourself up, O Ram, by the composure of your mind. Whatever you do and eat with the calm coolness of your mind, all that is far sweeter to the soul than anything sweet to taste. The mind that is overpowered by the ambrosial flavor of peacefulness and desists from activity may have the body lacerated, but it will heal shortly. No imp, demon, or enemy, and no tiger or snake ever annoys a peaceful man. He who has his mind and body well guarded by the invulnerable armor of meekness can never be pierced by the shafts of adversity. He remains like the thunderstone that is impenetrable by arrows. The king seated in his palace is not so graceful to see as a quiet, peaceful man who is graced by his calm and clarity of understanding. There is nothing in life so delightful to see as the satisfaction one feels at the sight of a contented and peaceful man. Only he who lives a holy life with his gentle and peaceful conduct is said to be truly living in this world. A sober-minded, meek, and honest man pleases everyone by all that he does. It is as if he captivates all beings to himself. He is called the meek, who neither feels pleasure nor pain at the sight, touch, sound, or taste of anything good or bad. He who is indifferent to all objects and neither leaves nor longs for anything, but keeps his senses and appetites under control is called a saint. Whoever knows all things, both internally and externally, with a clear understanding, who attends and looks to his own concerns, is truly said to be a saint. He whose mind remains as calm as moonbeams at the approach of either feast or violence, and even at the moment of death is said to be a saint, who, though present, neither rejoices nor murmurs at anything, but remains as if he were absent from it, and conducts himself as quietly as if he were fast asleep. Such a person is called a saint. He whose complacent look casts a graceful, nectar-like radiance on all about him is said to be a saint. Who feels a cool calmness within himself and is not disturbed or immersed in any state of life, and who, though a layman, is not worldly minded, such a man is termed a saint. He who does not take the difficulties of life to his mind, however long or great they may be, or who does not think his body to be himself, he is known to be a saint. The man of the world who has a clear mind, and as clear as the sky, and is not tainted by worldliness, is said to be a saint. The quiet man with tranquility of mind shines forth among sages and ascetics, among priests and princes, and among the mighty and learned. Great and notorious men whose minds are attached to peacefulness feel a rest arising in their minds like cooling moonbeams. Peacefulness is the greatest of all the many virtues and the best decoration of courage. It shines resplendent amongst all dangers and difficulties. O Rama, seek your perfection in this way, in which high-minded men have sought and attained their perfect states, by holding fast on to peacefulness as an imperishable virtue, preserved by the respectable, and never to be lost or stolen. So how is it possible to hold on to peacefulness? The mind is like a wild horse running around, difficult to master. Well, it's actually possible if we connect with the silent witness and become the silent witness. Then the mind can do whatever it likes, and we are established in the peacefulness of the silent witness. Well, this is what is being conveyed here. And the four guards that are being discussed are all qualities of the silent witness, aren't they? Chapter 14 on rational inquiry. The necessity of inquiry and clear reasoning. Vashishta speaking. It must be the duty of one whose understanding is cleared and purified by a knowledge of the scriptures to argue constantly with a guide who knows how to reason correctly. Understanding, when sharpened by reasoning, comes to see transcendence. So what is reasoning? Reasoning is discrimination. Understanding, when sharpened by reasoning, comes to see transcendence. Understanding, in this case, in this sense, would be the divine karmic traces. And when the divine karmic traces are witnessed or observed while being established in the silent witness, there arises true wakefulness and alertness in the silent witness. Now we see there's two levels of the silent witness. We need to become and engage the silent witness. It's more than just becoming the silent witness. See, the silent witness contains all the faculties of any of our koshas, but it is not a kosha. It is not a covering of consciousness. And those faculties of the silent witness are absolute faculties. The senses and the mind and intellect and ego of the silent witness do exist. Yes, there is an ego in the silent witness. There is an intellect in the silent witness. And of course, we already know there are the five senses. Pratibha, Pratibha Darshasa, a transcendent, absolute sense of witnessing, being the first or second aspect of the silent witness that we recognize. The first might be the sense of hearing. The sense of hearing the silence. Hearing what the silence is like. Throughout Vedic literature, when Krishna is discussed, always he is carrying a flute. Why is that? The flute is the sound of the silent witness. So it's excellent to be identified as the silent witness, to be the silent witness, and it is even better to be wide awake as the silent witness. So we can be a sleepy silent witness, or we can be a wide awake silent witness. So we're using our discrimination to determine which we're engaged in. And as Vachista is telling us, understanding, when sharpened by reasoning, comes to see transcendence. The only best medicine for the chronic disease of worldliness is reasoning, which is the second gatekeeper and the second quality of the silent witness, isn't it? Reasoning, intellect. The world is like a forest of troubles, sprouting endless desires, which, being once felled under the saw of reason, will germinate no more. O wise Ram, our understandings are sprouted under unconsciousness at the loss of our friends, at times of danger, and even of quiet. Only reasoning is our companion. There is no expedient for the learned and wise except reason. It is by means of reason that the minds of good people can avoid even evil and secure their good. You see what happens when we are identified as the silent witness and we are observing, witnessing the activities in the relative universe. At first, when the witnessing quality emerges, we spend a good deal of our attention on what's going on in the mind, observing the mind, and then observing the activities of the physical body, and observing how various impulses arise, and identifying those impulses as little rocks of karmic traces falling off the ceiling of the tunnel that we have bored in the mountain ranges of karma, so we can see the divine karmic traces. So we're looking at the divine karmic traces, the beautiful scenery at the end of the tunnel of individual karmic trace mountain. We see the birds and the flowers and the trees there. But then occasionally a rock falls in our path. And by this quality of reasoning in the silent witness, we avoid the rock. It's not enough just to witness and not apply the reason, the intellect of the silent witness to make decisions about whether we should follow this particular impulse or not. This is a little bit of danger that arises in the early stages of moksha when we find ourselves witnessing all about we are the silent witness, and then without being actively engaged and making decisions, we are then led down a dark tunnel that leads off to the side and back into the depths of ignorance. We lose our way in this tunnel that has been so carefully bored in the mountain ranges of karma. And we fall off this razor sharp path that leads through that tunnel to the divine karmic traces on the other side. We must apply our reasoning with intelligence in order to advance beyond Moksha level 1, or even hold on to Moksha level 1 until the end of the body's existence that is propelled by individual karma. So this is a fine point that is very important as we engage in this process. All our strength and understanding, our valor and renown, and the ends of our actions result from our reasoning with the intelligence. So the question has arisen, what are the other gatekeepers? We find those listed in the previous chapter. Of course, peacefulness is one of them. Now we have peacefulness and reason, equanimity, inquiry, contentment, and good company. These are the four guards. And we're investigating now how each one of these is literally a quality of the silent witness. And how, as a quality of the silent witness, we have to use them to engage the silent witness. If we are to stay on this narrow path leading to final irreversible liberation. Verse 6, all our strength and understanding, our valor and renown, and the ends of our actions result from our reasoning with the intelligence. Reason is the lamp to show us right and wrong, and the instrument with which we accomplish our desires by reliance on right reason. One easily crosses over the wide ocean of the world. Pure reasoning, like a strong lion, tears asunder the elephants of great error, which ravage the lotus beds of the mind. If ignorant men have at any time attained a better state of life, it was all owing to the lamp of their reasoning. Know, O Raghava, that dominion and fair prosperity, together with our enjoyments and internal salvation, are all only fruits of the celestial, wish-fulfilling kalpa tree of reasoning. The minds of great men, expanded by reasoning, are never liable to be immersed under the currents of calamity, but float above them like gourds upon water. So you can see this is a very clear way to understand at least two levels of understanding in just this one section of the Yoga Vasishta. And all Vedic literature is organized in this way. There is a superficial level of understanding, and by applying that superficial level of understanding, one gains very great benefit. But the superficial level, which is usually the one that catches the attention when we first start reading something like this, only gives us temporary relief and guidance. It doesn't reach to the level of the imperfect knowledge constructs. And so we find a thirst and a desire to be constantly reading the Vedic literature. Because what we're finding is we have a sense there is a second level of understanding, and we're trying to grasp that deeper level, because once we can, then the knowledge constructs are balanced, and then we have a clear connection with the divine karmic traces. And the relief that we feel becomes permanent. The weeds of the karmic traces do not grow back, creating more questions and conflict in the mind. It's like the wonderful story of the Ramayana, obviously on two levels. On one level, here is Ram running around in the forest trying to find Sita, who was stolen by Ravana, and all the adventures that he has to go through. But there is a deeper level of understanding in the Ramayana. That deeper level can only be discerned by the silent witness. So it gives us a path to follow. When we feel like we're beginning to understand the deeper level of a text like the Ramayana or the Yoga Vasishta, then we realize it is because we're established in the silent witness while we're engaging in this reading. And when we establish in the silent witness while engaging in the reasoning, we're literally engaging the silent witness, aren't we? And its absolute qualities of senses, mind, intellect, and ego. And then all that we read, all the knowledge touches the knowledge construct.